Hey, dude.
Hi, what's up?
Wondering if you had time to chat a little bit about the Biden debate.
Yeah, share for a little bit about it. What about it?
Yeah. So, from my perspective, I think the big issue that people have with the debate is Biden clearly is older. I don't think there's any debate that he has age-related cognitive decline, but people are confusing that with Alzheimer's dementia. Based on what I've seen in the debate, and just the way you can see like Trump acting at his rallies and crap like that, Trump has much more clear signs of dementia than Biden. It's just that other age-related symptoms of cognitive decline, they're not as apparent in Trump. And some of that might
For well,
be
I
like
don't know if I would
might be
say
on.
I don't think Trump has displayed any signs or symptoms of like dementia or anything. No.
No, he absolutely has. David Pakman's done some really good videos on this, and he's gotten some psychologists and psychiatrists and neurologists to talk about this. Trump will do things where he will be asked a question, he will say something that's vaguely related, and he will then trail off into a completely unrelated topic and then say, like, just weird, baffling things, like about how magnets don't work underwater.
Yeah, but like this is how
Um,
Trump has like always talked, right?
No, not always. I don't know of any, like, so one issue, you could maybe say that, but I can't find any examples of him, like, back in the 80s or 90s, where he would just say weird, absurd shit, where he trails off into completely unrelated subjects and then says things that are not interconnected, don't make any sense. Like, that's a sign of dementia where somebody will be talking about something and then randomly bring up like how magnets don't work underwater. Another thing that Trump does is he will like literally mix up people. So there was one point at one of his rallies where he literally thought he was
Oh, thanks for the 20
running
bucks,
against
Justin.
Barack Obama.
Did he literally think that,
Um,
or did he just like misspeak or mix something up in his head?
it sounded like he literally thought that. Here's the thing. If you have age-related cognitive decline, you tend not to mix up people. You will mix up names or forget somebody's name. So when Biden's talking, he'll say, "Yeah, Karen. Oh, I mean Sharon. Sharon." Like he'll say that if he's talking about somebody, he'll just forget their name. Trump will often confuse people for other people. I think he's confused his actual children for other people. He's gotten confused who his wife is. He's gotten confused about who he's running against. So like this is a repeated pattern I've seen. Like what I see from Joe Biden is he'll forget, or he'll be a little slow, and he might stumble over his words a little bit, but then he'll like remember, oh, this is the name, or this is the number that I was thinking. Trump will have like a completely different symptom. It's not age-related cognitive decline. It's like a delusion where he will think it's a completely different year, or he's talking about a completely different person, and he'll have this confused delusion.
Okay, I think you could make that argument, but I don't think that any of this would be convincing to the average voter. But
Right. Well, I'm saying like that's the issue. People are kind of confusing age-related cognitive decline with dementia. You can have age-related cognitive decline and be completely competent. I think Biden did much better in the debate compared to Trump.
well, when you
I
say
think he
did better in
made
the debate, do you just mean that he? I mean, like that's begging the question of, well, what do you mean by better, right? Because some people say
well
better
by
just means
better.
sounds
I
better rather
mean,
than like displays
so
facts or whatever,
yeah.
right?
So if we look at how the debate went, they were talking about things like relations with with Russia, Ukraine. They were talking about economic policies, national debt, stuff like that. Biden would make relevant, cogent answers that made sense and that largely stuck to objective facts. He made a few missteps. I think he wrongfully. I think at one point when he was talking about medication costs, the number was like 2,000, but he said 200. But Trump, on the other hand, he would literally just talk about immigrants, no matter what it was. He just any question he would just bring up immigrants. So like when if we're judging like who did better in the debate, like yeah, Biden was an old man. He was a little slow. He did stumble over his words a little bit here and there. But if we just look at if we were to just look at a transcript and remove all that, Biden was giving good, cogent, relevant answers to questions he was being asked, where Trump had a complete inability to do that. He would be asked about things like the national debt. He would just talk about immigrants. He would have to be asked 2 or 3 times to answer the question, and then he still wouldn't answer the question. Then finally, he'd get back to the topic, and then he would just make up fucking stupid bullshit. Like he would say, "Oh, well, the economy did much better under me. I had the national debt under control." When that wasn't true, he was like he spent more on like he inflated the national debt more than any fucking president in a 4-year term, and that's even pre-COVID. His pre-COVID national debt spending was way above Biden throughout his entire term. They were also discussing the environment. Trump said, "Oh, I was talking to my top environmental officials. We had H2O. We had the cleanest water." And then, like again, that's another example of his delusional thinking. Like, we had H2O.
Okay, I'm not
What
going to
the
disagree
fuck
on
does that-
anything that you're saying.
Yeah.
Like, I understand what you're saying. It's just not going to be convincing to the average person. But I mean, I understand what you're saying.
Right, but I okay. So this is another problem. I'm seeing this in left-wing media where rather than trying to do a good job trying to convince the public that Biden actually did have a good debate performance, we can admit, yeah, Biden's an old guy. He has health issues related to old age. He could die at any moment. Like, he's at that age where, yeah, he could just die of a stroke. As far as his cognitive capability is concerned with being a president, he's clearly cognitively capable. And especially if we're looking at the two options, he's obviously more cognitively capable than Trump. That's not the narrative you're hearing from the left. Like, especially on Young Turks, they're like, oh my God, this is disastrous. We need another candidate. Biden is completely incapable of being president. And they're ignoring like what he actually said during the debate and his actual cognitive capabilities. I think this is a huge problem with the left, where you'll see right-wing media. They'll actually defend their, the candidate they want to promote. They'll say, oh, well, when Trump makes like a stupid, crazy, delusional ramble, they'll just say, oh, well, it was a joke. Oh, his teleprompter malfunctioned. Oh, that's just Trump being funny. Whereas when you see Biden maybe make a slight misstep, oh my God, we need a new candidate. This is disastrous. I think I think the right-wing media and even like the PR teams for right-wing politicians, they do a way better job of promoting their candidates.
Yeah, it's possible. I have a whole. The reality is that the Conservative Party plays by like a totally different set of rules and standards right now. So I don't know how to counter that. That's a really challenging thing. Yeah.
Well, like again, this is an issue that the left has. They have this idea that, politicians need to be tactful, they need to be respectful, they need to play by this like chivalry kind of rule. It's one thing that you can say about Trump is it's nice seeing a leader who has these sort of like who's just kind of down to earth. Like, when Kim Jong, like when Trump was asked about Kim Jong Un and North Korea being a nuclear threat. Like, what do you think about North Korea having like nuclear missiles? Trump would say, "Oh, well, why don't you tell little Rocket Man that my button's bigger than his?" Like, I don't know why Trump, after that Supreme Court ruling, you know, said, like, oh, this is, like, terrible for the country, we need a rule of law. I don't know why you wouldn't have taken the opportunity to say, well, now that it's illegal, I guess I'll call SEAL Team 6 to assassinate Trump. We kind of need more of that from the left wing, and I think they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot by playing this game where they can't like sling mud. They can't be kind of real, say what they think, and say some things that are kind of a little spicy.
Okay.
Yeah, what do you think of that?
I actually agree with you a lot more than probably anyone in my audience thinks. It's just an unwinnable conversation because most people just don't see it. Most people don't know what cognitive decline looks like. Most people don't know what dementia looks like. If I were to put my mom up against either of those two candidates, I think my mom would look like she would eviscerate them because of how good she is at just like arguing and getting her thoughts on everything. And I think my mom is, I think, 5 or 6 years into having Alzheimer's disease. But you wouldn't even be able to tell. Most of my chat couldn't even tell when my mom was chatting with me a few months ago on my stream, except like after like 20 minutes, sometimes she would ask the same question again. And then some people were like, oh,
right,
wait, is that?
Yeah.
But Trump can just do this as like it's part of his campaigning when he repeats the same shit over and over again because the guy only has like 4 lines that he repeats. So yeah, most people just don't know what cognitive decline looks like. Legitimately, if you look at Biden, like he looks like a dude that's like aging and getting old, and maybe his mind is getting a bit old. But in terms of like cognitively, can he perform like the functions you expect to? Yeah, I would think so. Like if it came down to, in order to survive as a country, there's going to be like an Olympic level, fucking 5-minute time allotted to both sides debate between our leaders and other leaders, then at that point I might say, fuck, okay, Biden can't do this. He can't win a debate against Putin, with time limits or whatever. But in terms of like cognitively, who can run the country, I don't feel like we've hit a point yet where either person has hit a stage where it's like, oh God, I don't know, cognitively, this guy's like all there. People just base that on how they hear somebody speak and talk. But I mean, like it is what it is. I would never take that argument publicly because nobody's going to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's what left-wing media really has to do, and they have to kind of get more informed themselves and kind of like...
Yeah, it's just hard because like I don't know why it works out this way, but the right is able to dictate the rules that everybody plays by. Like, could you imagine, for instance, if Biden's campaign or if people around Biden were to say, okay, well, hold on, guys, like we can't like... let's just kind of like focus on the concepts of what he's saying and don't like listen to the words themselves. Like the amount of cope that people would screech at you from the conservative side would be unending. But on the conservative side, like they could say things like, oh, you're not supposed to take Trump literally, just take him seriously. And like everybody just like, oh yeah, sure. Like that's it. That's just like, oh, okay. Like everybody just accepts that. It's like, wait, how we can't take the president of the United States literally? What is he, fucking retarded? He can't speak well? But for some reason, I don't know why the Republicans are able to play with such a devolved rule set, but then still try to come up to the liberal rule set when it's time to evaluate the candidates. I don't know. I don't know why that is the case. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think what the conservatives do is they kind of pressure Democrats and liberals into kind of proving themselves. Like for some reason, I think when you kind of have this debate where it's like, oh well, like prove to me, what Trump said is stupid. Prove to me, like what Biden is saying is like Biden's cognitively capable. Democrats kind of immediately jump on that and they try to like defend their party member. And I think that's why they're like when you have a political side that's kind of asking the question and asking for the burden of proof, I think that's kind of how they're dictating like the political discourse. You don't really see much of that from the left. Like the left is it's kind of more insulated in a way where they're not really as interested in having these discussions with Republicans, with right wingers, where they kind of ask for these people to prove, okay, well, why is your candidate better? Why is, Trump cognitively capable? And I think that's how that kind of works out, where we're always the ones on the defense kind of saying, oh, well, Biden's good. Let me explain why. And I think there's also a cult of personality thing here too, where no matter what, they're just gonna defend Trump.
Sure. Okay, what do you want? Forethought.
Hello?
Hello.
Sorry, I had push to talk on. So the big thing is that between Trump and Biden, the entire Republican Party, their voter base, it's not a media thing. The media is hostage to the voter base of the Republican Party. That's not the case for the left wing. The Republicans overwhelmingly support Trump. That's why all of his scandals, all of his crimes, basically anything he does is excused by them, and we can't do the same thing on our side. Biden just does not have that support, and it is overwhelmingly the case that a vote for Biden is not considered a vote for Biden himself, but against Trump. I believe that's like 60-something% of the electorate at the moment. And in terms of Biden as a candidate, the media doesn't dictate this election. The idea that like the media can just wallpaper over Biden having a senior moment on a 50 million viewer debate is just, I don't know if like
they can't wallpaper over it, but there's definitely like both sides can play into each other. Like they can't wallpaper over it, but does there need to be 400 fucking articles on it? Probably not.
It depends. So I guess first
I'm curious. Here's a quick question on that. Like if I were to, I don't know if there's any way to Google this, but if I were to see, were there more news articles written about the last Supreme Court decision or about Biden's debate performance? What would you think?
Probably Biden's debate performance, absolutely. And I would expect that. The voters can dictate who the president is. They can't dictate a Supreme Court decision. But I guess...
Wait, what does that have to do with what the voters can... The voters can't dictate anything happening between Israel and Palestine. We're not...
That's true, yeah.
So, I mean, like, I don't know what... But okay.
But I guess my question for you is, do you have any reservations about Biden's mental faculty?
I mean, I think he... What do you mean by that when you say mental faculty?
As in, do you think there is any way he is limited by his age or mental capacity in terms of...
Yeah, no, I understand, but limited how? Sorry, I think you're going to say.
As in terms of limiting his ability to perform the functions of the president or be able to campaign in this election?
I would say no.
It's hard. The thing is, it's hard to understand, like, well, let's say that, like, if I say yes, like, if he was functioning better, what are some alternatives that he would be doing besides, like, doing a better job in a debate? It's hard to say that. I don't know. Like, I mean, I would imagine him being younger would only be better. I know at least in terms of him, like, speaking, it seems pretty obvious that he was a much better and much more passionate speaker when he was younger. But in terms of, like, running his campaign, I don't even know how much input, like, a individual has into running their campaign. So it's hard for me to say.
Well, I guess to follow up on that, the other half of that is, how much have we seen of Biden that we can be confident in our assessment of his mental capacity? And how much does the average voter know about his mental capacity? Because my understanding is Biden has been very inaccessible in terms of being able in public interviews and in like unscripted events. He's just much more private as a president. And I think that there is a shock amongst the public seeing that debate as like probably the largest public viewing of Joe Biden in a very long time.
Maybe, but I mean, like, he did the Howard Stern thing and everything too. I think the debate for this wasn't a shock because it was the first time the public saw him. I think legitimately he looked way worse in this debate than he has in any other public appearance that he's been in at all.
Yeah, according to the tracker that Ipsos does for all the debates going back to 72, it was the worst debate of all time.
Sure. But I mean, like, keep in mind that, like, there's other stuff that goes into this as well, which, like, it looked bad for sure. But if you actually like look at if you were to do a factual analysis, so for instance, neither side was allowed any notes for the debate and no teleprompting for the debate, right? I'm trying to legitimately remember. I don't know if Trump, this must be a hyperbole to say this. Did Trump bring up like a single fact or figure at all?
No.
I don't really
Literally
think
no.
so, but
I don't know
I
if
don't
he
think it's.
and like Biden is trying to rattle off like 500 fucking things. One of my criticisms was that like I think that his debate approach, ignoring age and everything else, was just bad. He should have focused
Yeah.
way more on like slogans and shit. But so like if we're thinking in terms of like mental capacity or like cognitive decline, like if Biden would have gone on stage and if he would have just did like quips or one-liners the entire time, even though in my opinion that wouldn't showcase higher mental functioning, the impression would be that it is. That's yeah. So when you ask me like, do I feel like mentally he's declined to the point where he can't run the country? I don't think he's declined to the point where he can't run the country. It could be that he's declined from like where he was before, for sure. I don't think that it's at a point where like we're getting nuked and he's like drooling at the Oval Office desk and
Yeah.
we're like fucked.
That question isn't like is he like mentally fucked? It's just that if you have reservations about his mental faculty and you've been very plugged in, the average voter is not plugged in at all, and that's probably the most they've seen of Biden in a long time. And that debate was not a referendum on his ability to recite facts; it was a referendum on his age. If he had spoken on principle, on anything, and just appeared normal, he would have crushed the perception that Republicans have been setting up for years at this point that he was too old.
Sure, but I think he theoretically
but-
he could do this at a future debate, right?
Yeah, but
That's
and by the
so
way,
risky at this
like I
point.
mean, I think the media was being incredibly uncharitable. Like they were talking about how his mouth was open, he was like smiling
His facial
in a weird
expressions
way.
are really dumb.
Those-
Well, like I mean, Trump was saying the most insane shit. Like at one point he was saying Biden's going to raise your taxes by 4 times.
Yeah.
Meaning like people in the middle income bracket are going to be paying 100% tax. Like,
Everyone knows
yeah, no
Biden's
shit.
insane.
Biden's
Yeah.
going to open his mouth and smile and be like, "What the fuck is this shit?" But people are saying, "Oh, he's delusional. He's thinking about cotton candy in his head, and he's just like smiling for no reason." Like, these reactions were reasonable reactions that anyone would have listening to somebody say stupid, insane crap.
Maybe, but the average voter disagrees. It's just
Well, your average voter is a fucking moron too.
Okay,
Yeah, but
well,
your average voter is your
they
voter
decide
who's
the
voting in the
election.
election. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, but I mean,
Okay,
like,
real quick, I'll give each of you one more
again,
sentence, and then I gotta go because I'm doing this debate now. So
Sure. Like I don't know why the left wing media is giving the most uncharitable take on this. Like the Biden facial expression thing. I don't know why they're not just saying like yeah Biden's going to like kind of smile and smirk and have this like gasped face when he's against a debate opponent that's just saying insane rambling shit. Instead, they're giving this narrative that oh this guy is like thinking of cotton candy and he's in like delusional la la land.
sure, it's the different rules
When
for
I
both sides.
don't know
like
why you would.
there's like even on the facial expression things, like when Trump's facial expressions are wild, it just becomes a meme. Do you remember the meme
Yeah.
of like the Trump short circuiting?
yeah,
Yeah.
the spazzing out.
Yeah, like if Biden were to do this, people would assume that like wait, fuck, can I find this?
Yeah, his voters support him. That's
Yeah,
the
people would
biggest-
assume that like Biden has lost his mind if he were like doing shit like this. But for some reason, when Trump does it, it's like funny. Yeah.
Yeah,
Alright, so-
and I can't stand it. I don't know why the left wing media does this. Even if you don't particularly like the guy because you think he's Genocide Joe, like, I mean, again, the idea that Trump would be better at, handling the Israel Palestine situation and he wouldn't have pressured Israel to, like, stop using 2,000-pound bombs, like, the likelihood of Israel using nukes in Gaza under a Trump presidency is far more likely compared to a Biden presidency. So I don't know why the left wing can't just like have at least a little bit of charitable support for the better candidate.
All right, I'll just leave my last bit and then I'll go. You can tell me which part of this is like mental gymnastics or not accurate. The elections are decided by voters, not news media. 72% of the voters think Biden is too old to hold office. That was reinforced by a 50 million viewer debate where he looked incredibly old and was not entirely coherent. People don't want to vote for someone they think is unfit for office. Biden currently has no electoral advantage. Biden is currently polling behind his VP. Michelle Obama polls 11 points ahead of Trump without a campaign, without an endorsement. People are not loyal to Biden. 63% of them vote against Trump, not for Biden. And we should replace Biden, even if it's really, really difficult.
I think replacing Biden at this point would just be a guaranteed Trump victory. I just don't see how you could replace a candidate this late in the game and actually expect to get a victory.
All right, well, the polls disagree, so good luck.
Yeah, and by the way, most people didn't even watch that debate. What they're doing is they're watching like little clips and snippets of the debate. And again, the left-wing media providing these little, snippets and then giving the most uncharitable, kind of view on this. It's only like, again, promoting this idea that Biden's cognitively unfit when what they could do is just stop being fucking morons, stop being uncharitable to the better candidate, and they can kind of promote a more like truthful, nuanced narrative that paints Biden in a fair light, but they're not doing that for whatever reason.
I've said my piece on this. Anything else?
No, not really.
All right. Peace out.
All right. Be sure to feed your cats a vegan diet. Peace out.